Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your re-ranker may be the most impressive part of your RAG stack, and the least useful.
That happens more than teams want to admit. They add a re-ranker expecting a leap in answer quality. But nothing meaningful changes because the real problem is earlier in the pipeline.
So, this is not about whether re-ranking works in theory. It's about why smart teams bolt it on, pay the latency bill, and still ship mediocre retrieval.
Exactly. A re-ranker can only sort the candidates it sees. If retrieval brings back weak, off-topic, or incomplete chunks, re-ranking just picks the best of a bad set.
Give me a concrete failure, not a slogan.
Say a user asks, "How does password reset behave for suspended accounts?" Your retriever returns 10 chunks about password reset in general, but none of them include the suspended account exception buried in an internal policy doc. The re-ranker may perfectly rank those 10 chunks, and you still miss the only chunk that mattered.
So, the re-ranker looks competent, while the system still fails the user. That is a dangerous illusion.
Right, because the ranking step becomes cosmetically better, while recall stays weak. Teams celebrate cleaner top 3 results when the key evidence never entered the candidate pool.
And that creates a power shift inside the project. People start tuning the glamorous stage because it's visible, while the boring bottleneck keeps killing accuracy.
Yes, retrieval quality, chunking, metadata, query formulation, and corpus cleanliness often dominate the outcome. The re-ranker is downstream leverage, not a substitute for upstream recall.
Let's make that sharper. When does a re-ranker add little value, even if retrieval is not terrible?
When the initial candidates are already easy to separate. If your retriever is returning highly relevant chunks near the top, the re-ranker may only swap positions 2 and 3. That can look like technical progress and produce almost no user-visible gain.
So you're spending extra compute to improve ordering inside a set that was already good enough.
Exactly. Another common case is when the answer requires combining facts across multiple chunks. A re-ranker may improve single-chunk relevance, but the real need is broader coverage. The winner is not the best one chunk. The winner is the set that contains all necessary evidence.
Give me another example where that distinction hurts.
Imagine a support bot for billing. A user asks whether prorated refunds apply after plan downgrades during a free trial conversion. One chunk explains downgrades, another explains trial conversion, a third states the refund exclusion. If retrieval only gets 2 of those 3, re-ranking the pair does not solve the missing rule. The answer still comes out confidently wrong.
That is the kind of bug that makes a product look polished right before it betrays the customer.
And it gets worse because re-rankers can hide the issue in demos. The top result looks more relevant, so the interface feels smarter, but production questions with edge cases still fail because coverage was never fixed.
So, how do you stop guessing and figure out whether re-ranking is actually the lever?
Evaluation, not just end-to-end answer scores. You need stage-level evaluation that tells you whether the right evidence appears in the candidate set before re-ranking, after re-ranking, and in the final answer.
Break that down. What should a programmer actually inspect?
For a representative set of queries, label the chunks that truly support the correct answer. Then, measure candidate recall at, say, top 20 before re-ranking. If the gold evidence is absent most of the time, your bottleneck is retrieval, chunking, or corpus structure. If the evidence is present but sits too low and the re-ranker consistently lifts it, then re-ranking is earning its keep.
So, the key question is not, did the answer improve after I added a re-ranker? It's, where is the evidence getting lost?
Exactly. That reframes the work. Instead of debating model sophistication, you identify the failure stage. That saves time, money, and a lot of false confidence.
Let's do one practical scenario. Small team, internal docs, lots of excitement, poor results. What do they find?
They test 50 real employee questions. In 30 of them, the needed passage never appears in the top 20 candidates because the documents were chunked by page, splitting definitions from exceptions, and titles were noisy. The re-ranker barely moves overall accuracy. After fixing chunk boundaries and cleaning metadata, candidate recall jumps. Only then does re-ranking produce a modest but real lift.
That is brutal, because it means the re-ranker was not the breakthrough. It was the finishing tool they reached for before pouring the foundation.
Yes, and that's the strategic consequence. Teams that measure the pipeline win by fixing the true constraint. Teams that chase the fanciest middle step lose weeks optimizing something that cannot recover missing evidence.
So, the takeaway for builders is almost annoyingly simple. If your candidates are weak, your re-ranker is trapped.
And if evaluation shows the evidence is already there, then re-ranking can help in a targeted, defensible way. But until you know that, adding a re-ranker is often just reorganizing failure.
That line is the whole game. You cannot rank your way out of retrieval debt.